All right, advanced drawing. It is time to talk a little bit about, we're looking at expressive self-portraits, which we're just kind of starting to lay into. And today we want to get into a little bit of the thoughts behind it. So the first thing that we're probably going to think of is in an expressive self-portrait is to make an expression with our face. But that's not the only way to handle this. And we've talked about some famous artists. We talked about Vincent van Gogh and Frida Kahlo. I have some others if we get to that today. But we're gonna come through and I want to talk a couple things. Do you guys know what an idiom is?
Abby does.
Abby does? Awesome.
Take it away, Abby.
No, I don't.
So an idiom, according to Google, so I'll play it and you guys, oh man, I lost my mouse. There it goes. So tell me if you can hear it.
Idiom.
Did you hear idiom?
Yep.
All right. So idiom it's a group of words established by using as having a meaning not deductible from those of individual words. For example, raining cats and dogs. When we say raining cats and dogs, we don't mean it's literally raining cats and dogs. We mean that it's a heavy rain outside. So we use idioms all the time. So I'm going to share with you. So I went through and picked up some colorful, the European spelling of color, idioms such as beet red or black and blue. And it gives you the meaning and example sentences here. And really what I want to focus you guys in on is we use color as a very strong part of our descriptive language, but we don't always think about it. We don't think the full onset of what we're about to do here with this project. So a lot of students, when I say we're going to do an expressive self-portrait, they immediately think of something to express, usually an emotion, and then they jump right in, but they don't consider these other options. So have the blues, to be sad or depressed. So if I was really wanting to show sad or depression, or if I wanted to be subtle in my example, maybe I use a lot of blues in my picture, because if this is correlated with sad or depression, I can show off that idea. So I mean, there's just tons in an advertisement of these idioms that we could use. Now, I want you guys to start to think about one, it is a self-portrait, so it should be an image of you. I need to be able to tell it's you. But in that notion, how you are showing me the expression, that can become completely different. It could be what happens around the picture. It could just be you really close up in your picture. So how you're going to do the portrait is part one. Part two is how you're going to show me that expression. So I've just shown you those. I have there's a little video. It's an English video. I'm not going to show it, but I will, if you guys do a search for it, and I guess I'll pop this over quick. Move this out of the way. So you can see turning red, feeling blue, yellow belly, white as a sheet. And this guy kind of goes through and he has a little video on colorful English expressions. So I'll watch through the whole video and see if it's worthwhile. But it's one of the things that popped up when I started searching for idioms. Looking in psychology, so this is the science of people, color of psychology, and basically we have, you know, best colors to wear, and this is looking at a psychological approach. So one of the things, colors not only can be used as a metaphor as an idiom, but now they can also influence people around you. So for example, I know that if I have to go in and I'm going to be in a negotiation with someone, or I want to make sure that someone understands that I'm in control, on those days, I wear red because red not only is passion, but it's aggression and intense. So I wear a stronger red outfit. Maybe it's a shirt, maybe it's a tie. And if I know I'm going to go in and I'm negotiating something on that day, it's going to put them in a stance. Now, at the same time, if I want someone to feel comfortable inside of a meeting and I don't want them to feel like I'm attacking them, I might wear a blue or a green because of the emotion that it's going to give them. So this is a base, primary, secondary, and tints and shades scale and some neutrals of color and what they feel. So this is something else to consider when you're working on it. There's a psychological impact with color. And to back this up, not only do I have this article, and this goes back all the way, this study goes all the way back to 1974, but we also have this article, Theories in Cognitive Psychology, and this one is a little bit more relevant, July 17th of 2019, the color, how does it affect you and your feelings? So they have this nice little cute chart. They go into a few tints and shades here with the pink, but again, it's pretty much primary, secondary colors and some neutrals. And we still see they're using, and they still are coming back with the same kind of ideas as color influences. Now, this is looking at, and I'll put a link to both of these articles in our Google Classroom, but you want to start to think about how is the colors that I'm depicting affecting the value or the view of the artwork that's being presented. So yeah, my mouse keeps popping out on me. So we want to consider that, and it's a good possibility that you can do your expression without having to make an expressive face. So you could have a stone flat face as your portrait, but the colors that you pick purposely and put inside of it, the colors of the skin tone, the under values that you put into before you build up. So if those of you that are working in color pencil, you might look at maybe mixing in some base values that are a specific color to help influence that. The values around your piece. Now, all that being said, Mr. Abel, I don't want to use color. I want to keep it black and white. So now we're at more of a physical representation of emotion and expression. So then that's going to rely back into the structure of the face, what's happening around it, how we are showing those expressions to get that. If you're doing a base emotion to be expressed or a complex emotion. So anger is a base emotion. It's an easy to depict, it's an easy to see expression. But being a lighter or a subtle emotion, something that is confused. That's a more subtle emotion. Being slightly one way or another in your drawing is going to help kind of develop that. If you're having problems doing a self-portrait, don't pick a complex emotion. Go for a base emotion, something that you're going to easily depict. On the other hand, if again, this is all easy to you, we're going to go for that more kind of complex setting. I found this nice article from 2018, so I'm going to show you it real quick because I'll put a link for that as well. And it's 10 Masters of Self-Portrait from Frida Kahlo to Cindy Sherman. And basically, it's looking at some of the old masters. So this is a very, both are pretty emotion less paintings, but their environments and their setting kind of give us a feeling for it. Frida, on the other hand, though she doesn't really change her facial expression, she definitely is using color. She's definitely using her settings, her details to show those emotions. We're going to go through. These are, I really like these. I mean, it's a very expressive kind of set. Now this is full body. It's contrasting values with very light tones, and same in here. I mean, even though her face is pretty stoic and his face is pretty stoic, we still get an expression of what's happening around them. Candy Wilder is great at doing this as well. For a more contemporary artist, we talked about Van Gogh, Cindy Sherman, with these kind of nice like little ones kind of come through here. Pablo Picasso, this is different stages of Picasso's career. So 1901 and 1906, they're within 5 years, but it's not his Cubism, which we're probably most familiar with. This is a little bit more stylized. And if you look at his things that Picasso was making when he was your age in high school, you're definitely going to see some different looks than his Cubism. Rembrandt, even though, again, kind of stoic faces, and rather drab colors, we get these kind of nice highlight features. Something that would translate easily into black and white drawing is these highlights, how these designs are done. You can also think about doing monochromatic, where we are doing just one color with all of its tints and shades if you're up to that challenge. So this one here, to me, these aren't really self-portraits. We have the people kind of looking away from us in both of those scenes. Andy Warhol. Warhol drifts from his painting style, and this is a little bit of his drawing, to his photography work. So we have a triple, is it triple or quadruple portrait in here? Because we have the eyes looking down. We have this set. This might be a quadruple where he's reprinted over the top of it. So definitely use of color in here to kind of give us a feeling. So what I wanted to hit today was, as you're setting up to do your expressive self-portrait, is think outside of the title of the assignment, expressive self-portrait. So simply put, you're gonna do well if you go, and that's your drawing. On the other hand, if you're struggling with doing a portrait, then keep the portrait simple, and then mess around with the things around the portrait. Mess around with the colorations that you use. Mess around with the environment that you have. So I'll keep these things up, and I'll put all those links over into our Google Classroom. They're good references, and who knows, for those of you heading off to college soon, you might be able to reference those articles. They're pretty new. I think I got rid of the early ones because they usually like things in the last 5 years, but you might be able to use those as references for a college paper as well. Okay, so past all that, we have, we should be, oh, it's easier if I do this in PowerSchool. So give me 1 second, because I had Google Classroom open, and I forget that Advanced is all jumbled together, because it's easy when we're in physical class for that. All right, so loading. We should have finished our inspirational imagination, expressive self-portrait. I did the comic lesson, so we should just be up to the expressive self-portrait. And I changed the date on the expressive self-portrait to next week, and I just put it in wrong again. because it was, I want you guys to have some time to make it look well and be well. So we should be working on, this week we should be working on expressive self-portraits. Okay. Questions? Is this our last project before portfolio? Oh no, oh no. We have at least one more project in there. Because otherwise we would have 2 weeks of me going like this. And as entertaining as that is, it's not going to get us the YouTube ratings we want. Maybe. Any other questions about portraits or anything like that?
Can I use watercolor in my background?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Not like pencil watercolor, because I don't know how to use that.
2 ways to use watercolor pencils. I think probably, and it depends on your background. So as a person who comes from a painting style background, dipping, you can dip watercolor pencils into water and that'll activate the pigment. And you can use the pencil like a paintbrush. The only downside to that is it's still a pencil, and as the paper gets saturated, it tends to, you can tear your paper. It also means that because you're dipping the pencil in water, it's instantly activating, so the water gets dirty fast, and sometimes when you put down colors, it's not really a paintbrush. It's not like a flexy paintbrush. So you have to get used to that. Way 2, people coming from a drawing background, they lay down their values with watercolor pencil. Then they just take a paintbrush, dip it in water, and they activate the paint as they go. That's nice because if you do drawing layers and you build up 2 or 3 layers, you can activate it, and as the water seeps through, it starts to get to all those layers. The downside to it is if I have a yellow line and a purple line right next to each other and I go across it with one brush stroke, they instantly activate and merge, and you can neutralize a lot of colors. But if you want to use mixed media, watercolor as your background, I'm good with it. There's a lot of drawings that were done traditionally with watercolor, either as a very light amount of color added to it, or actually using a very tight amount of water on a brush and doing brush lining, heavy pigment load, so that you could actually get in there, and it's similar to ink drawing, but instead of using a quill, you're using watercolor. So long answer, yes. Is that all you guys got for me? Come on, man. Throw me some baseballs. All right. We're going to